Jack Donovan was no stranger to the peculiarities of the universe. Working as a freelance mechanic in Earth's busiest spaceport, he was used to encountering alien species, ships from distant galaxies, and strange technologies that defied human understanding. Yet, despite the ever-present hum of interstellar life around him, Jack remained grounded in his modest reality, a small workshop in the outer districts of New Luna City, just barely paying his bills. Life was predictable, maybe even a little boring, but Jack liked it that way. He preferred the simplicity of fixing things, of making ships run smoothly again. Little did he know, though, his world was about to be flipped upside down. It was an ordinary afternoon when the message arrived, delivered by an odd-looking droid, its spherical body hovering just above the ground, illuminated by a soft, green glow. Jack wiped his greasy hands on his overalls as the droid floated toward him, extending a small holographic panel with an incoming message flashing across it. Jack Donovan, recipient of an official communiqué. The droid's monotone voice stated, "Priority 1. Jack frowned, not used to receiving any messages with that level of importance. Most of his contacts were local spaceport officials or captains with broken-down ships. He hesitated before pressing the blinking light, and the holographic display flickered to life. To his surprise, the face that appeared on the screen wasn't human. It was the familiar, pale blue face of Zellner, an alien friend from long ago. Jack hadn't seen him in years, not since the day Zellner's ship had left Earth. His heart skipped a beat as he remembered their brief but intense friendship, forged when Zellner's ship crash-landed on Earth, and Jack had helped repair it. "Greetings, Jack." Zellner's deep, melodic voice began. "If you're seeing this, I am no longer among the living." The words hit Jack like a punch in the gut. Zellner, dead? He had been young for an Othzarian. He should have had many more years left. Jack leaned against the edge of the workbench, struggling to process the news. "I have left something for you," Zellner continued. "As per the customs of my people, my estate is now yours. My wealth, my technology, and my bonded mates are yours to care for." Jack blinked, unsure if he'd heard that right. Bonded mates? Zellner had never mentioned a family, let alone wives, during their time together. "I trust you, Jack. You helped me once without expecting anything in return. Now I give you my life's work. Protect it, protect them, and may the stars guide you." Zellner's image flickered one last time before the message ended, leaving Jack standing in stunned silence. Before he could even begin to comprehend what had just happened, the droid made another announcement. "Incoming arrival. Please proceed to the designated landing zone." Jack's heart raced. This couldn't be real, could it? Inheritance laws of alien species were a mystery to most humans, but he knew Zellner wasn't the type to joke about such things. The Othzarians were known for their deep sense of honor and duty, and apparently, Zellner had chosen Jack to continue his legacy. Swallowing his anxiety, Jack left the workshop and walked to the landing zone outside, where an alien ship was already descending through the clear skies. Unlike the bulky, utilitarian designs of human-made crafts, this one was sleek, almost organic, with shimmering blue veins running across its surface that pulsed rhythmically, as if it were alive. As the ship landed with a soft hum, the ramp extended to the ground, and two figures emerged. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The first to step forward was tall, with delicate, angular features that were almost elven in appearance. Her skin shimmered under the sunlight, changing from pale lavender to a soft, iridescent silver as she moved. Her long, flowing hair fell in waves to her waist, and her violet eyes, large and expressive, locked onto Jack with an intensity that made his chest tighten. The second figure was slightly shorter but no less striking, with similar features, though her skin glowed with a warm, pearlescent hue. Her eyes were a deeper shade of purple, and her movements were fluid and graceful, as if she were floating rather than walking. They approached him with the kind of serene composure Jack had only seen in people with the weight of great responsibility on their shoulders. "We are Araya and Celera," the taller one said, her voice soft yet commanding. We were bonded to Zelnur. By the laws of Othzar, we are now bonded to you. Jack could barely speak. These were Zelnur's wives? His heart pounded as he tried to wrap his head around the enormity of the situation. He had inherited not just a fortune, but two living, breathing alien companions, both of whom looked at him with expectation. I am sorry, what? He stammered. You're bonded to me? What does that mean? Celera, the shorter of the two, smiled gently, her expression warm and understanding. In our culture, a bonded pair or triad in this case shares responsibilities. We were bound to Zelnur, but with his passing, those responsibilities transfer to you. We are not simply his wives in the human sense of the word. We were partners in his life, his work, and his estate. Now that partnership extends to you. Jack rubbed the back of his neck, feeling overwhelmed. I'm just a mechanic, he said, half to himself. I don't even know what kind of responsibilities you're talking about. Araya tilted her head slightly, her eyes studying him intently. Zelnur chose you for a reason. You are more than what you think, Jack Donovan. Her words felt like both a compliment and a burden. He had no idea how he would manage all of this. An alien estate? Two bonded companions? What did that even entail? He was just a human who fixed broken things. This was beyond anything he had ever dealt with. But the women seemed calm, patient, and unhurried. Araya gestured to the ship behind them. We should return to Zelnur's estate. There is much you need to learn. Still reeling from the shock, Jack nodded numbly and followed them into the ship. The interior was as breathtaking as the exterior, with smooth, flowing walls and soft, ambient lighting that seemed to respond to their presence. Everything felt alive, organic, and strange, yet somehow familiar. As the ship ascended into the sky, Jack found himself gazing out at the stars, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. He had always been fascinated by space and its mysteries, but he had never imagined he would be swept up into something like this. His life had been quiet, predictable, even a little lonely. Now, he was flying toward an alien world, accompanied by two beautiful and enigmatic women, carrying the legacy of a friend who had trusted him with everything he had. Jack couldn't help but wonder if he was up to the task. But as Araya and Celera sat beside him, their presence oddly comforting, he realized there was no turning back now. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it head-on. And maybe, just maybe, he'd find out why Zelnur had chosen him for such an extraordinary journey. Jack sat in the soft, glowing confines of Zelnur's personal ship, his thoughts racing as the stars streaked past the windows. Araya and Celera sat beside him, their ethereal presence grounding him in a way he didn't quite understand. Despite their serene and calm demeanor, they were still alien to him, quite literally. And now they were bonded to him as they had been to Zelnur. The weight of his newfound responsibility pressed on him like the gravity of a planet much larger than Earth. Where exactly are we going? Jack asked, breaking the silence. His voice felt small in the vast expanse of the ship's cabin. Celera, her violet eyes shimmering, smiled softly. To Othzar, Zelnur's home. His estate awaits us there, as do the formalities of the inheritance. Jack's stomach tightened. He had no idea what to expect from this estate. The alien world of Othzar was only a name to him, a distant place mentioned in galactic records. It was known for its wealth, advanced technology, and complex societal customs, none of which Jack had ever studied, let alone understood. As the ship continued its journey through the void, Araya's telepathic voice entered his mind for the first time since they had met, gentle yet firm. You don't need to worry. We will guide you through this. The sensation of her voice directly in his head startled him. Even though he had heard rumors that some Othzarians had the ability to communicate telepathically. It wasn't like spoken words, it felt more like emotions wrapped in language, resonating directly in his consciousness. I'm still getting used to this, Jack muttered, rubbing his temples. This whole situation. Araya's lips curved into a small smile. We understand. It is Unusual for humans to be placed in such a role. Zellner spoke highly of you, though. He trusted that you would adapt. Adapt to what exactly? Jack asked, exasperated. You say we're bonded, but what does that really mean for me? For you too. Celera leaned forward slightly, her expression warm, almost maternal. Our bond is not just a matter of companionship, Jack. It is a sharing of responsibility. Zellner was more than our mate, he was our partner in every sense. We were bound to his life's work, his estate, his legacy. By the customs of Othzar, when a bonded partner passes, their remaining companions are joined to the one who inherits their estate. Jack frowned. But I didn't ask for this. I'm not Zellner. I don't know anything about his life's work, or your customs, or anything really. Solara's gaze softened. Zellner chose you not for your knowledge of our ways, but for your heart. You helped him when he was stranded on Earth, expecting nothing in return. That kind of selflessness is rare, even among the most advanced species. He saw something in you that transcends skill or knowledge. Jack swallowed hard. He remembered that time well, how he had worked night after night to repair Zellner's damaged ship, never expecting anything in return. But this was far more than a favor repaid. It felt like he had been thrust into a role he had no right to fill. Still, Jack said, glancing between the two alien women, what if I'm not cut out for this? I don't know your world, your customs. How am I supposed to lead an estate on a planet I've never even visited? Araya's eyes held his gaze steadily, her voice both calm and reassuring. You will learn. We will teach you. The ship shuddered slightly as it began its descent, and Jack's heart raced as he realized they were approaching Othzar. The atmosphere outside glowed faintly as they passed through it, and soon the view shifted to reveal a breathtaking planet below. Vast cities stretched out in glittering grids, interspersed with lush, vibrant forests and rivers of glowing, crystalline water. The architecture was unlike anything Jack had ever seen, buildings that seemed to grow organically from the ground, their curves and spires shimmering in iridescent hues. The estate itself was located in a remote, mountainous region, far from the bustle of the cities. As the ship descended toward it, Jack's breath caught in his throat. The structure was massive, yet graceful, built into the mountainside like a natural extension of the landscape. Its walls were made of a translucent material that glowed softly, blending with the surrounding environment in a way that was both futuristic and ancient. This is Zellner's estate? Jack asked, awestruck as the ship touched down on a smooth, stone landing pad. Yes, Araya said. It is yours now. Jack's head spun as they disembarked. The estate was enormous, and the sense of history and power radiating from it was palpable. Araya and Celera led him through a series of elegant halls and chambers, each one more impressive than the last. There were no sharp angles or harsh edges. Everything seemed to flow seamlessly, as though the building itself was alive and growing. In the center of the estate was the main living area, a vast, open space with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the surrounding mountains. A crystalline river ran through the middle of the room, its waters glowing faintly in the dim light. Strange, floating orbs of light hovered in the air, illuminating the space with a soft, ambient glow. Everything here is powered by the natural energies of Othzar, Celera explained, gesturing to the glowing river. The estate is self-sustaining, and it holds secrets beyond anything you've encountered on Earth. Jack felt overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it all. It was beautiful, otherworldly, and completely beyond his comprehension. As they entered what appeared to be Zellner's personal study, Jack saw the true extent of his friend's legacy. The room was filled with strange devices, holographic maps of galaxies he had never even heard of, and stacks of data that seemed to pulse with alien energy. There were also weapons sleek, advanced, and dangerous-looking lining the walls, alongside artifacts from other worlds. Jack ran a hand through his hair, feeling utterly out of place. This is a lot, he admitted. Araya stepped forward, her gaze softening. "We know it's overwhelming, Jack. But you're not alone in this. Zellner left everything in your hands for a reason, and we are here to help you. This estate, this legacy isn't just about wealth. It's about knowledge, power, and responsibility." Solara's voice was gentle as she added, "We are your partners now, just as we were with Zellner. Whatever comes, we will face it together." Jack looked at the two of them, his chest tightening with a mixture of fear and hope. He didn't know if he was ready for this, if he would ever be ready for this, but there was no turning back now. He had been thrust into a world of alien wealth, power, and responsibilities far beyond anything he had ever imagined. "I don't know if I can do this," Jack admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "You can," Araya said, her voice firm but kind. "You will. We will help you, Jack." As the sun set over the distant mountains, casting long shadows through the estate's shimmering walls, Jack realized that his life was no longer his own. He had inherited a legacy he didn't fully understand, two alien companions whose bond was as foreign as it was profound, and a world of challenges he had never imagined. But deep down, something stirred within him, something that Zellner had seen all those years ago. A spark of determination, a flicker of courage. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't going to face it alone. With Araya and Solara by his side, he would learn to navigate this new life, this alien world of wealth and responsibility. And whatever dangers or mysteries lay ahead, he would face them head-on, just as he had faced every challenge in his life before. Jack took a deep breath, his mind racing with thoughts of the unknown. But for the first time since Zellner's message, he felt a sense of calm. Maybe, just maybe, he could do this after all. Jack had barely scratched the surface of his new life on Othzar before reality began to sink in. It wasn't just the wealth, the sprawling estate, or even the constant companionship of Araya and Solara that weighed on him. It was the responsibility of it all. Zellner had left him something far more complicated than a fortune. The deeper Jack delved into Zellner's files and records, the more he realized that his friend's life had been filled with secrets. It was during one of these late nights, alone in the vast, glowing study, that Jack stumbled upon something alarming. Zellner had kept detailed records of his dealings, business ventures across the galaxy, trade contracts with planets Jack had never heard of, and logs of exotic technologies he had acquired. But one file stood out, hidden behind layers of encryption that Jack only accidentally unlocked with a misstep while browsing. The file was marked with an unfamiliar symbol, a red, jagged sigil that pulsed ominously on the screen. Jack hesitated before opening it, a sense of dread creeping up his spine. As the file decrypted, lines of text and holographic images materialized in the air in front of him. It was a dossier, but not a business contract or trade deal. It was a record of Zellner's involvement in a rebellion and underground movement aimed at toppling an intergalactic crime syndicate known as the Syndicate. The Syndicate was infamous across the galaxy for its control over illicit trade routes, black market technologies, and brutal enforcement of its will. Few dared to cross them, and those who did rarely survived. Yet here, in Zellner's own files, was evidence that he had been working against them for years, gathering intelligence, forging alliances, and quietly sabotaging their operations from the shadows. Jack's heart raced as he scrolled through the data. Zellner had been far more than just a wealthy merchant. He had been a key player in an intergalactic rebellion, and his estate, Jack's inheritance, was filled with stolen syndicate information, blueprints for highly advanced weapons, and lists of names, potential allies, and worse, targets. "This can't be real," Jack muttered to himself. But the cold truth stared back at him in the form of holographic records. His hands shook as he realized the gravity of the situation. The Syndicate would stop at nothing to retrieve this information. And now, Jack unwittingly was in possession of it. "You've found it." Jack spun around to see Araya standing in the doorway, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the study. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice held a gravity that told Jack she had known about this all along. "You knew?" Jack asked, his voice tight with disbelief. "You knew Zellner was involved in this? That he was fighting the Syndicate?" Araya stepped forward, her elegant form casting long shadows across the room. Yes, she admitted, her tone calm but serious. Zellner was a key figure in the rebellion. He never wanted to involve you, Jack. He thought he could shield you from the danger. But with his death, and with the estate now in your hands, it seems that is no longer possible. Jack's mind raced. The enormity of what he had stumbled upon was overwhelming. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He demanded, his voice rising. I've been walking around blind, thinking I'd inherited some alien fortune, when in reality, I'm sitting on a ticking time bomb. Araya's eyes softened, and she placed a hand gently on his arm. We didn't want to burden you before you were ready. Zellner believed you had the strength to handle this, but we wanted to give you time to adjust before revealing everything. Well, I don't think I'm ready, Jack snapped, pulling away and pacing across the room. I'm just a mechanic. I don't know the first thing about rebellions or fighting crime syndicates. Celera appeared in the doorway then, her face as calm and composed as ever. You are not alone in this, Jack. Zellner never fought the syndicate alone, and neither will you. Jack rubbed his temples, trying to process everything. And now they're going to come after me, aren't they? They're going to come for this estate, for the information, for everything. Yes, Celera said, her voice steady. That's why we must prepare. Jack slumped into a chair, feeling the weight of the situation crush down on him. He wasn't prepared for this kind of threat. The syndicate was ruthless, and they had the resources and power to crush anyone who stood in their way. How was he supposed to protect himself, let alone Araya and Celera? Why didn't Zellner leave this with someone more qualified? Jack asked, his voice strained with frustration. Someone who knew how to fight? I'm just one guy, and I don't even know how to use half the technology in this place. Araya knelt beside him, her eyes glowing softly. Zellner chose you because he trusted you, Jack. Not just with his estate, but with his mission. He saw something in you that he believed could make a difference. Jack shook his head, still doubtful. I don't know if I can do this. You can, Celera said, her voice firm but kind. And we will help you. You are not expected to face this alone. As Jack struggled with his thoughts, the estate's security system chimed with a low, ominous tone. A warning. They've found us, Araya said quietly, her eyes narrowing. Jack's heart skipped a beat. Who? The syndicate, Celera replied, her expression darkening. They've sent a ship. Jack shot to his feet, adrenaline surging through his veins. He rushed to the large windows that overlooked the estate's landing zone. There, in the distance, a dark, looming shape appeared on the horizon, a sleek, predatory vessel descending toward the estate like a hawk preparing to strike. We don't have much time, Araya said, her voice calm but urgent. We need to activate the estate's defenses. Jack blinked. Defenses? What defenses? Celera gestured toward the control panel embedded in the wall, its surface now glowing faintly with red warning lights. The estate is equipped with cloaking fields, energy shields, and automated turrets. But you'll need to activate them manually from the central control room. Jack stared at the panel, feeling a surge of panic. He had no idea how to operate these systems, and now the syndicate was practically at their doorstep. I don't know how to use this stuff, Jack protested. We'll guide you, Araya said, already moving toward the control room. Follow me. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he followed Araya and Celera through the winding halls of the estate, his mind racing. This was real. The syndicate was here, and they were coming for him, for Zellner's legacy, for everything. They reached the control room, a sleek, high-tech chamber filled with holographic displays and glowing interfaces. Araya immediately began inputting commands into the central console, while Celera moved to the side panels, her fingers dancing across the controls with practiced ease. Activate the cloaking field, Araya instructed. That will buy us some time. Then we'll engage the shields and turrets. Jack stepped up to the console, his hands shaking slightly as he followed her instructions. He pressed the icons on the holographic interface, watching as the estate shimmered, its structure disappearing from view as the cloaking field activated. Outside, the syndicate ship descended closer, its engines glowing with a menacing red light. "The shields," Araya urged. Jack quickly engaged the energy shields, watching as a translucent dome of light enveloped the estate. The syndicate ship's weapons powered up, and Jack's heart raced as he realized they were about to come under fire. A moment later, the first blast struck the shields, sending a ripple of energy across the dome. The impact shook the estate, but the shields held barely. Celera activated the automated turrets, and the estate's defenses roared to life, energy beams lancing toward the syndicate ship. The ship dodged and weaved, but the turrets were relentless, forcing the enemy vessel to retreat slightly. "We can't hold them off forever," Celera warned. "They'll find a way to breach the shields." Jack gritted his teeth, his mind spinning. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. But as he looked at Araya and Celera, their calm determination gave him strength. He couldn't run from this. Zellner had trusted him with more than just wealth. He had trusted him with a mission. And now it was up to Jack to protect that legacy, no matter the cost. "I have an idea," Jack said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his gut. "We need to take out their communications. If we can disrupt their link to the rest of the syndicate, we might stand a chance." Araya nodded, her eyes flashing with approval. "There's a device in the lower Vulcan EMP pulse generator. It can disrupt their systems, but you'll have to activate it manually." "Of course I will," Jack muttered, already moving toward the exit. "Where's the vault?" Celera pointed to a holographic map. "This way, but hurry, they're getting closer." Jack took a deep breath and sprinted down the halls, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't a soldier, but he was Zellner's friend. And he wasn't going to let the syndicate take everything they had fought for. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he raced through the winding corridors of the estate. The distant rumble of the syndicate's weapons hammering against the energy shields echoed in his ears, each impact making the ground beneath his feet tremble. The vast, high-tech halls of Zellner's estate seemed to stretch on endlessly, and though he had been there for only a short time, Jack had learned enough to realize that this place was as much a fortress as it was a home. He followed Solara's directions, his pulse quickening as he neared the vault. Araya had told him that the EMP pulse generator was stored there, an alien device powerful enough to disable the syndicate ship systems, cutting off their communications and leaving them vulnerable to the estate's defenses. But it wouldn't be easy. He had to reach the generator, activate it, and pray the pulse didn't disrupt their own systems in the process. Finally, Jack skidded to a halt in front of a large, reinforced door. The vault. It was smooth, metallic, and sealed with layers of alien encryption, much like the estate's security systems. He cursed under his breath, wondering how he was supposed to get inside. There were no visible controls, just a strange glowing panel that pulsed faintly with energy. Before he could panic, Araya's voice echoed softly in his mind, her telepathic connection still strong despite the chaos outside. "Place your hand on the panel, Jack. The estate recognizes you now. You are its master." Swallowing hard, Jack pressed his hand against the panel, feeling a slight warmth under his skin as the device scanned him. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft chime, the vault door slid open, revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with alien technology. The EMP pulse generator sat at the center of the room, a sleek, compact device that pulsed faintly with power. Jack stepped inside, his breath catching as he took in the sight of the vault's contents. This was no ordinary armory, it was a treasure trove of Zellner's secret technology. Advanced weapons, shields, and devices Jack couldn't even begin to comprehend lined the walls, each one more dangerous-looking than the last. But there was no time to marvel at the alien tech. The syndicate was closing in, and they wouldn't wait for him to admire the scenery. He grabbed the pulse generator, its surface cold and smooth in his hands, and quickly scanned the small interface on its side. It wasn't unlike some of the tech he'd seen before. There were power levels, targeting adjustments, and a manual activation switch. Jack could hardly believe he was holding a weapon that could disable an entire ship, but he had no choice but to trust that it would work. The Syndicate's ship is preparing another attack. Araya's voice echoed urgently in his mind. They've intensified their bombardment. You must hurry, Jack. Jack nodded, even though she couldn't see him. I'm on it, he muttered to himself. He hurried back through the halls, clutching the generator tightly. The estate trembled again as another volley of fire struck the shields, and for a terrifying moment, Jack thought they might collapse under the pressure. He could feel the tension in the air, the sense of impending doom closing in around him. If the Syndicate breached the shields, they'd be inside the estate in minutes, and he, Araya, and Celera would be at their mercy. No, he wasn't going to let that happen. He couldn't. Jack arrived at the central control room, where Araya and Celera were monitoring the estate's defenses. Araya's violet eyes flicked toward him as he entered, and Jack could feel her unspoken urgency. Did you get it? She asked, her voice steady but tense. Jack nodded, holding up the pulse generator. Got it. How do we set it up? Celera moved swiftly to his side, her calm demeanor reassuring him despite the chaos outside. We need to get close enough to the Syndicate's ship for the pulse to reach them. The estate's shields will protect us, but we'll need to temporarily lower a small section to launch the pulse. It's risky, but it's the only way. Jack's mind raced. Lowering the shields, even for a moment, would leave them vulnerable to attack. But if they didn't disable the Syndicate ship systems, the bombardment would eventually break through the defenses anyway. There was no time for doubt. Let's do it, Jack said, his voice firm. He wasn't sure when he had made the mental shift from fear to determination, but in that moment, he knew he had to trust himself. Zellner had chosen him for this, and now it was his turn to step up. Celera moved to the control panel, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface as she prepared to lower a section of the shields. We'll only have a few seconds. I'll time it perfectly. Araya stood beside Jack, her expression calm but focused. You'll need to manually aim the pulse generator. Once it's activated, it will disrupt their ship's communications and disable their weapons. But you have to hit them directly. Jack swallowed, nodding. Right? No pressure. He positioned himself at the window, the pulse generator resting on his shoulder like a futuristic bazooka. Through the translucent dome of the shields, he could see the Syndicate ship hovering menacingly, its dark silhouette outlined against the glowing landscape of Othzar. The ship's weapons were charging for another strike, and Jack could feel the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. Now! Celera shouted. In an instant, a section of the shield flickered and dropped, opening a narrow window for Jack to fire. He didn't hesitate. Taking a deep breath, he aimed the generator at the Syndicate ship and pulled the trigger. A pulse of brilliant blue energy shot from the device, arcing through the air like a bolt of lightning. It struck the Syndicate ship squarely, sending ripples of energy across its surface. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, all at once, the Syndicate ship's lights flickered and died. The ship shuddered in midair, its engines sputtering as the EMP pulse took hold. Jack watched in stunned silence as the vessel lost power, its weapons systems going offline and its engines sputtering out. They're disabled, Araya said, her voice filled with quiet triumph. You did it, Jack. Jack exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The Syndicate ship hung in the air, powerless, unable to continue its assault. The estate's turrets targeted the now defenseless vessel, firing precision blasts that forced the Syndicate to retreat. Within minutes, the enemy ship veered away from the estate, limping back into the atmosphere as it fled the battle. Jack lowered the pulse generator, his heart pounding in his chest. They had done it. They had actually won. For a moment, the control room was silent, save for the soft hum of the estate's systems. Jack turned to Araya and Celera, his face still flushed with adrenaline. We stopped them, he said, almost in disbelief. Celera nodded, her expression serene. For now. Araya placed a hand on Jack's shoulder, her violet eyes meeting his. You were incredible, Jack. Zellner would be proud. Jack let out a shaky laugh, running a hand through his hair. I don't know about incredible. I just didn't want to get blown up. Araya smiled softly, but there was a seriousness behind her gaze. The syndicate won't give up so easily. They'll be back, and they'll come with more firepower. But for now, we've bought ourselves some time. Jack nodded, his mind still racing. The immediate danger had passed, but he knew Araya was right. The syndicate was a powerful organization, and they wouldn't let Zellner's rebellion go unanswered. But now, Jack was no longer just a bystander. He had taken his first steps into a world far more dangerous and complex than anything he had ever known. Celera approached, her calm presence soothing the lingering tension in the air. We'll need to prepare, strengthen the estate's defenses, reach out to Zellner's contacts, and fortify our position. The syndicate will come for us again, but we won't be caught off guard next time. Jack glanced out at the sky, watching as the last traces of the syndicate ship disappeared beyond the horizon. He had always lived a quiet, simple life. Now, he was at the center of a galactic struggle he had never asked for. But as he looked back at Araya and Solara Too Strong, capable women who had stood by his side through it all, he felt a surge of determination. I'm in this, Jack said, his voice steady. Whatever it takes. I'm not going to let Zellner's legacy fall into the syndicate's hands. Araya smiled, her violet eyes filled with approval. We'll stand with you, Jack. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. Celera nodded. We are bonded now as we were with Zellner. You are not alone. Jack felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. He had inherited more than wealth and responsibility. He had inherited a cause, family. And though the road ahead was uncertain and dangerous, he knew that with Araya and Celera by his side, he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun set over the mountains of Othzar, casting long shadows across the shimmering landscape, Jack stood with his new companions, ready to protect the legacy he had been entrusted with. The syndicate had come for them once. They would come again. But this time Jack was ready, and he would not back down.